off on page Ches, Ois Gimel, line 7. And we were speaking about two levels of matnas chinam. There is one level of matnas chinam that really has to do with our avodah. That's why it's one of the asara lashonis of davening. It's one of the asara lashonis of tefillah. It's called ואתחנן. But even though we are davening to Hashem, and davening means we have some type of relationship, and we have some type of connection, etc., and we have merits and so on. Still in all, we ask in a way of matnas chinam. We ask in a way of a free gift. Another way of looking at it is that it's not even part of the asara l'shonos shel tefillah. It's not part of the 10 expressions of davening, but rather it is completely and totally a way of a gift. We're asking it in a type of way of a gift. Now, we also explained that this has to do with the davening of Shabbos versus the davening of the middle of the week. The davening of Shabbos is in a way of, says that Shabbos is matana toiva yeshli beis kenozai. I have a good gift in my treasure house. And then the middle of the week davening, which is really an extension of Shabbos. The ha'ara of Shabbos shines in the davening in the middle of the week. So over there, the davening is in the way that the matnas chinam, that the free gift, is part of the language of davening. So it's davening, there's crystal asata, but it's in such a way that we recognize that the Isrusa de la is something completely not our doing, even though normally we say Isrusa asata, Isrusa de la, but that itself is because Hashem committed himself to that type of relation. Shabbos, on the other hand, is melchatchila level of matan, and especially the time of Raiva the Raivin, the time of Shal Shudas of Shabbos. Since then shines the level of Atik, which, if you remember earlier, we also said in the Spheres, the level of Chitzonius HaKeser, the level of Arich Ampin, that has to do with the Dargam of the Matnas Chinam, that even that's part of the Lashonis of davening, because Arich Ampin still has to do with the Nevroim. So therefore, what the Nevroim do, what the created beings do, has an effect over there, as opposed to Atik Yomin, which is really also the time of Shal Shudas. Atik Yomin, especially Pnimius Atik, is totally beyond the avodah of Bnei Adam. That's the level, that's the explanation, as the Sifri says, that's not part of the Asara L'Shonos of davening, but it's rather just a free gift totally, has nothing to do with davening, has nothing to do with our avoid. And that's why Shabbos is called Matan. It's a gift. It has nothing to do with our avoid. Oizgin. Yes, Kasha calls there. We can connect all of that we just now explained. With what Alter Rebbe explains in the Likutei Torah. Concerning where it says that the meaning of Eschanun is only talking about a free gift. Through Moshe Rabbeinu entering Eretz Yisrael, as it says that Moshe Rabbeinu requested from the Eibishter, I will, please let me cross and I will see. So what was the purpose? What was the inner reason that Moshe Rabbeinu so much wanted to enter Eretz Yisrael? Moshe Rabbeinu, through entering Eretz Yisrael, want to bring about by the Yidden Madrege Kazu, such a type of level, that they should have such a level that it's impossible to reach through the service of the Nevroim, like we explained before. What type of level is beyond the work of the Nevroim? That's an inspiration from above that's totally beyond the inspiration down here below. So there's the level of inspiration above that comes as a quid pro quo, comes as a result of this Rustal Asata. That is, though it's a matnas chinam, it still falls into the level of tefillah. It's something that we earned once the Eibush could establish that system, the Yisrustal Sata reaches Yisrustal Eila. But when we're dealing with such a high level of Yisrustal Eila, for example, like we spoke about before, Atik and Primius Atik, that's way beyond the reach of the Nevroim. That was the level that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to bring down to the Yidden. That's connected with Ebrana ve'ereh, that he wanted to have, that they should have the level of vision. Why did Moshe Rabbeinu say, I will cross and I will see the land? What's the significance of his emphasis on seeing? Was he a sightseer? Was he a tourist? What's the idea of seeing? He had to take pictures. What's seeing? So Chassidus explains that seeing means he wanted to affect a level of sight, of vision that the Yidden should have in Holocaust in such a type of way that vision, as we know, is beyond understanding, that seeing is believing, etc. When you see something, it becomes totally yours and related to you. He wanted that the Yidden should get this in a way of a gift from above, not that they understand and they appreciate because of their own work. That's what it means, a free gift. What's it mean, the word chinam? So we know there's a Maimer Chazal that says when the Yidden said that we remember, they complained in the Midbar, he said, we remember the fish that we ate for free in Mitzrayim. So Chazal say what they ate for free. What type of freedom? The Mitzrayim were kind enough and just gave them food. So he says, the Chazal say, chinam min ha-mitzvahs, free of mitzvahs. So the Rebbe explains, matnas chinam over here also means free of mitzvahs, meaning not in a negative way, but in a level that's higher than our avodah. Mitzvahs is about what we do. This is a level that's beyond our avodah. It's a level that's way higher than the level of mitzvahs. So therefore, that is what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to affect. And that's why he asked to go into Eretz Yisrael, that he wants to Ebrana ve'ereh. So now we could understand why his davening specifically here was a level of matnas chinam. You remember, I think Ariel asked yesterday that what about, or he indicated about other times of davening. What is it over here specifically? Here specifically, for what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to accomplish with the Yidden, he wanted them that they should have a revelation of godliness that's on a level of matnas chinam. So that was reflected in the way he asked Hashem for entering Eretz Yisrael. Says line 16, according to this, we could explain the understanding and the svar of the Sifri. The word Ve'atchanam is not part of the 10 expressions of davening. Because davening is in a way of avodah that comes from below and inspiration from down below. To be able to affect by the Eibishter what he wanted to accomplish, that I shall cross and I shall see. In other words, the level of sight and vision and godliness, the level of Yisrusdala Elam that's beyond the Yisrusdala Sata, revelation from above that's beyond our work. So it wouldn't have been enough just to have the idea of tefillah. We need to have something that is higher than tefillah. That if Moshe Rabbeinu would have crossed into Eretz Yisrael, and he would have had the level of the Eder, so that would have affected by the Yidden a revelation, the way of an inspiration from above. So it was necessary that the request should also be in a similar vein, in a way that reflects this awakening from above, this inspiration from above, this revelation from above, that is independent of the person's avodah down here. This means levakesh, to ask. Not in a language of davening type of page test, that the language of davening is connected with merits, but rather to ask a total free gift that has no connection whatsoever with merits and so on. So therefore, That was the reason why his request reflected it and was not even in the category of davening. Any questions before we go on?
So we're working hard davening to get a free gift?
What?
We're working hard and davening to get a free gift?
No, he's saying the other way, that he wasn't using terminology of davening, because davening indicates a quid pro quo. If you want to have a totally free gift beyond anything that we do, so the request cannot even be used in a language of davening. It must be totally outside of an entire paradigm of davening. It's just asking for a free gift.
How do we communicate that?
So Moshe Rabbeinu communicated that with Ve'aschana, with the words of that he's just asking as a free gift.
So we're asking for the right lottery ticket.
Line 4, page test. But the reasoning of the Medrash Rabbi. That also Ve'aschana is part of the 10 expressions of davening. So seemingly, based on what we said before, it shouldn't have been part of the 10 expressions of davening. It should be only an expression of asking for a free gift. Davening doesn't fit into what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to draw down. So he explains, let's be understood by first prefacing what's explained in L'Kutei Torah. Moshe Anal, that the above mentioned request of Moshe, it should be in a way of an inspiration from above. That's beyond inspiration down here below. In the service of a Yid, what type of level is called a revelation from above that's independent of what we do down here? That's the revelation that comes down through Torah. Through Torah, it says at the beginning of Aseret HaDibros, which includes in it the entire Torah, it says, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha. And Anoichi indicates a level beyond any type of name or description for Hashem. It's not about Elokim, it's not about Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei. It's about Hashem's I-ness that's beyond any type of description. Anoichi Misha Anoichi. In other words, it's way above anything that we could earn and we could accomplish through our avodah. Torah is actually called Matan Torah. It's a gift. It's not something that we earned. It's not something that we draw down from Hashem to have Torah. It comes in the way of a gift, because that's the idea of something that's beyond the level of inspiration down here below. So there, so on that point, the Rebbe asks a question. If that's the Serusa de La'ela, and that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was asking and what he wanted in Ve'aschana, he wanted the revelation of Torah, he wanted that type of revelation. So if so, we need to understand a different thing. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu's request was not fulfilled now. The Pashtus, it's talking about the request to enter Eretz Yisrael. But according to L'Kutei Torah, that it's talking about that the Torah should become revealed from above. Of course, that request was fulfilled. So why do we say that the Chazal say that it wasn't fulfilled right now? So he said, according to this, it's not understood that Moshe Rabbeinu's request was not fulfilled now. There is the idea of Torah that through it comes down also now from this level of Yisrus Tola without the inspiration down here below. So if so, we do see that Moshe Rabbeinu's request was fulfilled. So why did the Chazal say that Moshe Rabbeinu's request was not fulfilled now? But when Mashiach comes, it will be fulfilled. Tzemach Tzedek explains the answer to this. Moshe Rabbeinu's request was not just that we should have our Amshacha from Torah and be a spiritual thing, but this gift that should come only from Hashem above, not based on our avodah, should affect down here below in the world. And he says in footnote 29, similar to what it says about the Rashbi, that the Rashbi, when Eretz Yisrael needed rain, he just started saying a Torah on the pasuk, Kinim Atov Manoim Shevasachen Gam Yachad, and just through the Torah alone, there was no tefillah over there. He was just saying words of Torah that made Amshach down here in the physical world. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted, that there should be able to be a Yisrusad Elam without a Yisrusad Sata. Just the Torah itself should become the vehicle for bringing down Hashpaz here into this world. That is the Maila and the advantage of davening over Torah. What's davening about? Davening about, like it says, in many of our chassidus, Roifei Cholim, to heal the sick, Mevarach Hashanim, to have the agriculture, the Parnasa blessed, and so on. It's about changing the world down here. You don't sit down to learn Torah to change the physical world. The effect of Torah is primarily above in the world of Atzilus. In the supernal worlds, this is the meaning, but the Chazal say that someone that's sitting and learning Chumash, learning Tanakh, reading Psukim of Torah, so Hashem is reading those very Psukim like face to face with him, like he's learning with him in a Chavrusa. If he's learning Mishnah, Shaina, if he's Shaina Halachas, if he's learning Gemara, etc., so Hashem is as well learning those same things. What's it mean Hashem is learning, Hashem is reading those psukim? That means that the Amshacha that he's accomplishing through Torah is in the level of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the level of Zah and Malchus, Vatzilus, Chachmei La, and so on. The Eloi Deat Tefillah, as opposed to davening, Poilim, Lashanas, and Nevroim, K'may. The point of davening, the goal of davening, in its simple, literal sense, is to change the creations down here in the physical world and the way they are. That even though a person might chas v'shalom be sick, that the sick person should become healed. It's a change here in the physical world. And if rain is not coming down, that the rain should come down. Why is it that davening does that as opposed to Torah? Since tefillah originates from down here below, tefillah is about the below, the person, the Yisrusdal Asata, trying to change and elevate and transform. Therefore, it affects down here below. Because down here below is the location where the tefillah is coming from, top of page Yud. So that is the way things are now. But Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to affect something greater. Moshe wanted to affect that also the Amshacha down here below should be in the way of an inspiration from above through Torah. In other words, he wanted that the same thing that tefillah accomplishes, that it changes the world down here, the Torah should change the world down here as well, similar to what happened, like we said, with the Rashbi. Getting back to the original question about, according to the Medrash Rabbah, that Vaetchanun is also a language of davening, that even though it was matnas chinam, it was still connected with davening. So he said, Shegam bakoshes matnas chinam shel Moshe hoisa loshen shel tefillah was also an expression of davening. Why? Since Moshe wanted there should be the joining of both advantages and both qualities. Though the Amshacha came down in the way of a free gift, an inspiration from above, Mikol Mokum Tum Shechad Mata Mata Mokum Atfila still and all should come way down below, like in the place of davening. Therefore, his davening comprised both things. On the one hand, it was a language of davening because he wanted it to affect this world, and that's the advantage of davening over Torah. But in such a manner that he davened and used one of those expressions of davening, which indicates a level of matnas chinam, because then it would be from that highest most place, the place of Torah, and so on. Okay, let's continue. Still in all, Moshe Rabbeinu was not successful in affecting this in his davening. How come? It's a great thing. It'd be a revelation from above. It says, since the ultimate purpose is that all matters should be through avodah specifically. Though because Moshe did not enter Eretz Yisrael, so who was the one that brought the Yidden in to Eretz Yisrael? It was Yeshua, who's known as Pnei Levana. It says the Chazal liken Pnei Moshe k'Pnei Chama, Pnei Yeshua k'Pnei Levana. The face of Moshe is as luminous as the sun. The face of Yeshua is like the moon. What's the difference between the moon and the sun? The sun is constant. Every single morning it rises, every single night it sets. It has a constant revelation of light. But the moon waxes and wanes. It has changes. So since the entrance into Eretz Yisrael was through Yeshua, so therefore the situation on the ground and the way they entered Eretz Yisrael was also susceptible to change. If Moshe Rabbeinu would have brought the Yidden into Eretz Yisrael, so since Moshe Rabbeinu was the level of the sun, which is unchanging, so then their staying in Eretz Yisrael would have been unchanging as well. But since Yeshua brought them into Eretz Yisrael, there was a possibility for change. And therefore, it was able to be afterwards the idea of Golos. As opposed to if Moshe Rabbeinu would have brought them into Eretz Yisrael, then it would have been an everlasting redemption, since it would have been independent from our service down here below. The reason why it's possible to be Golos is because there were things we didn't do well. But if Moshe Rabbeinu would have affected, and if Moshe Rabbeinu would have entered, and he would have affected that it should be a revelation from above without our service down here below, so then there would have been no reason for Golos. It would have been everlasting Geula. So maybe we lost out by that. So the Rebbe says, no. Really, we tapped into something even greater than even what Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to bring down. Kol Mokim, still in all, Davkai, there's only through Moshe Rabbeinu not entering Eretz Yisrael, there's the advantage of earning the Hamshacha from above through Avodah. That Hashem desires the actions of your hand. Now, when when we say the term desiring, that shows on a very deep connection. The level of Tainug is a level of Einug. The level of Taiva is a very deep-seated connection. So we say that Hashem desires to have avodah. That means it draws down a much higher light, even higher than the light that comes down through a free gift. And when will we have this light? Will become revealed down here below in the true and complete redemption. And that revelation of Mashiach is really not separate from what Moshe Rabbeinu asked, but really Shekashur in Moshe Rabbeinu. It's still connected with Moshe. We know the first Redeemer is the final Redeemer. He'll come and redeem us speedily in our days, Mamish. and the two matters and the two approaches of how the redemption will come. Ba'ofen shall be itam, in a way that it will come in its time, and in the way that I will speed it up. In other words, the Rebbe is going to explain the be'itan b'achishena. In one place, it says in the pasuk be'ita, it will come in its time, and achishena, I will speed it up. So the question is, which is it? So be'ita and achishena indicate two different types of revelation. Be'ita means that there's a certain set time that the Eibush is just going to say, the Eibush already has, this is the deadline. The deadline has to be by this and this time, the Eibush is going to bring the Geul, which means that it's independent of what we do. It's coming from Hashem above. So Be'ita is Shakadosh Baruch Hu's Keitzam L'chosh. When it means that we say the Geul is going to come in its time, that's the idea that the Eibush will place an end to the darkness. In other words, Yisrus D'Leila, independent of Yisrus D'Lasata. Or in the manner of I will speed it up. How does it become speed up? Through our avodah, through L'Sata. Through Yidden doing Shuvah, and immediately they are redeemed. The Rebbe says, in such a way that there'll be both aspects, both will come from above, and it'll be the Yidden that will be doing it with all the advantages of each one of them, because the advantage of the first is that it's coming from a very high level. Hashem is doing it. The advantage of the other is that it's coming from us, so therefore it permeates us, etc., and we have earned it. All this is accomplished on the day of Shabbos. So the Rebbe says that Shabbos also has a level that's even higher than Matnas Chinam. Earlier we spoke about that there's the tefillas of the weekday and the tefillas of Shabbos. Tefillas of the weekday is that language of davening that we use the term Ve'atchadnan Matnas Chinam. Then Shabbos is not even at all about our avodah, it's totally Matnas Chinam. The Rebbe now introduces there's really a third level. The third level, like we said before, that comes down because Hashem desires the action of your hand, and that manifests in Shabbos higher. And the note, he says, in the notes on the bottom, he says that perhaps we can connect it, what it says, we brought before the Maimer Chazal, I have a good gift in my storehouse, my treasure house, and it's called Shabbos. So the Rebbe says, Matana alone, if you said just a gift alone, that means the Matnas Chinam. Matana Toiva, that's even higher in the level of Matnas Chinam. By days through that we can nullify all the decrees. In other words, he's referring back seemingly to what it says about Moshe Rabbeinu could not enter Eretz Yisrael because he said, Hashem said, but I swore that you won't come into Eretz Yisrael. So if it's a level of matana, it still cannot undo a decree. But if it's level that's higher even than matnas chinam, that could undo the decree as well, and including the decree concerning us, including also it says in the Gemara about there was three oaths that the Eibishter made, that the Yidden, one of them is that the Yidden should not push the Eibishter to bring Mashiach, if you will, whatever that means. So that decree is as well, that oath is also nullified when you bring down from the level that's even higher than Matnas Chinam. So it should be for us in our times. Any questions?